Rogers. Simple question, maybe without a simple answer. What have we learned so far about the football teams in Starkville and in Oxford this spring? Still early. Lots still to be hashed out. A lot of guys not participating because of injuries or whatever, workload, whatever the reason. A lot of new faces in Starkville, a new coaching staff. At Ole Miss, a new defensive coordinator and some new faces on the defensive side of the ball, staff-wise and player-wise. Feels like there is the opportunity to learn a lot, and yet we're still relatively early. So, hey, Dad, let's start in Starkville. So far, you were there on Saturday, talked with Zach Arnett, saw some of practice. What have we learned so far about Mississippi State?
Well, you won't believe this, but Will Rogers is picking things up pretty quickly. Who would have guessed that a veteran quarterback could slide into a new offense and not have a whole lot of issues with it? And that's been one of the good stories so far for sure. The emergence of some players, a guy like Jordan Mosley, who's a transfer from Northwestern, who last year when he could practice, early on, you thought, okay, he might make an impact, and then he just battled injuries all season long. He is a guy right now that looks like he is pushing for a starting job at wide receiver, along with Tulu Griffin and Justin Robinson. And then defensively, there's just so much experience in that front six. It's all about, who's going to play behind them in the secondary and the new faces there. Talking to Arnett on Saturday, he was asked specifically about his safeties, and he feels like he's got guys, that can compete in the SEC, that he's got guys that he feels comfortable putting out there against teams like Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, and being able to win battles out there. So those are, the big questions for me coming in were, how does Rogers work in this offense, and how does the defense, who do they find to play in the secondary? And so far, it feels like they're finding some answers back there.
Have you seen enough yet to feel like that you can describe what, quote, this offense, close quote, is?
I mean, I've watched some film from, or not film, I watch YouTube clips of App State and things like that, and some of the stuff they do, and it's multiple is such a cliched word, right? They say we're multiple. Well, everybody's multiple. Nobody just lines up in the wishbone every play. So that being said, I think you're going to see the receivers play a bigger role in the running game this year. Tulu Griffin's going to get handoffs. He's going to see some jet sweeps. He's going to see some quick screens, not downfield, behind the line of scrimmage. I'm interested, and this is the one thing I don't know right this second, is with what Mike Wright brings to this offense. I don't think he comes to Mississippi State without having some sort of guarantee of playing time, because he was, the transfer. So, what does the package for Mike Wright look like? What do the play calls for Mike Wright look like? Do they have a package with him and Will Rogers on the field at the same time where you line him up a receiver? Can he play that position, or is it just going to be as a decoy? That's something I don't really know. But, I expect this offense to be, a little more traditionally balanced. Mike Leach always said that, balance is just about being able to do what you want when you want. I think this is more of, you're going to see run, you're going to see pass. Run will set up the pass will set up the run. I think they'll definitely be more vertical than they have been in years past, which, to me, that's one of the big questions around Will Rogers, right, is can he work that deep ball? Can he get the ball down the field, in the passing game? If he can, that's going to be a big plus for him as a player.
Orky, when we asked that question about Ole Miss, most people would immediately go to quarterback. I don't know if it's time to do that yet. So let me throw you.
It might be, actually, because we got some more clarity on the health of one of them. So one of these days you were off, we talked about this, but we've talked about it when you were here as well. Back in January and February, I was asking as many people as I could and kind of openly opining on this show about the health of Spencer Sanders. I had heard that he re-aggravated that injured shoulder from last season, and I couldn't get anywhere. He was working out with the team, but I heard that he wasn't really throwing that much and that he re-aggravated the shoulder and something was up there. Turns out that is absolutely true. Sanders himself mentioned that he is not 100% yet. Kiffin said today that he is limited in practice for what they ask him to do. I have heard that He's not doing much compared to the other two quarterbacks. And so between that and then what Kiffin said today about how Dart, with the addition of those two guys, Howard and Sanders, has really pushed him and he's grown mentally and he's the most improved player on the team and all that. If it's a quarterback competition, it hasn't begun yet. And there's only so many chances that Spencer Sanders will get to unseat the incumbent starter that has apparently already won over the team in the locker room, who already has been in the system for a year and been a starter. It's hard to come in and unseat incumbent starters anyway, but if you're not 100% in practice, you only have so many practices between now and when the season begins. And I know it's March, but that is still a significant development in this competition. If one of the guys in the competition has a banged-up shoulder and the coach admits, who doesn't really give that kind of information ever, he's like all the rest of them that embellish that kind of stuff, calling him limited, then it hadn't even begun yet.
Lane Kiffin today said it's been great for Jackson with the competition. He's looked great, and it's not natural to want competition, but he's been better physically, and we're excited about what we've seen from him so far. One of the most important guys out there, talking about his quarterback, Jackson Dart, or at least his quarterback last year, Jackson Dart. About Spencer Sanders, he says, we've limited what Spencer has been able to do medically. We're looking at the long term there. He's done a good job with the system, and mental and physical has been good. With Spencer limited reps, Walker Howard has had a lot of opportunity, and he's done well. His energy and leadership skills are good. He lifts other players and has done really well. Everybody that has been to a practice that has seen Walker Howard throw the football has walked away. I say everybody. That's a broad brush with which to paint. I've heard a lot of people who have seen Walker Howard throw the football for the first time in person walk away going, oh, wow. Yeah. Consistency with the deep ball, the ability to push it down the field, confidence standing in the pocket, can make all of the throws. And this is from a guy that's not expected to be the starting quarterback this year.
Yeah.
He is expected to be the backup quarterback this year. However it finishes with Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders, Walker Howard is expected to be the backup quarterback at Ole Miss this year, with the future kind of belonging to Walker Howard. Yeah. I do think there's one really interesting position to watch, and something that we have learned already from spring. The transfer portal pickup at tight end from Memphis appears to be a big deal. Cade Prieskorn already has had a good spring and has wowed some people, and I think that's important for two reasons. One, he's going to be able to make plays in this offense. He put up big numbers at Memphis last year, has grown into the role as a legit threat in the passing game, but also can do some blocking. But second, there was no other tight end option other than Michael Trigg. And so it was, if you're going to have a tight end in the game, Michael Trigg's going to be the guy. And then he was not healthy for over half the season. And when he did come back, he had no effect. You got a guy pushing him that if Trigg doesn't take a massive step forward from where he was a year ago, he won't see the field. We know the athletic ability and the talent is there with Trigg. Is he going to take the next step in terms of doing the things that he's got to do to get on the field? That competition could be really important.